thank you for all coming out for today. I'm Kerry St. James. I'm with the Swiss company Nagra, and I had a great pleasure today to introduce to you two very special people. AB Fan is a treasure in our industry. For those of us who are on the manufacturing side of things, we strive for perfection and always pushing the edge of the art in the products that we make. AB and her company, Impex Records, does the same on the software side. The recordings are impeccable, and the music selections also are what we demand, not the audiophile drivel that comes out where you back in the old days played the train records and the train went across to show the stereo. We find ourselves listening to those albums that are not musically interesting but sound great. Impex not only selects music that sounds great, but also is a perfectionist label in terms of the production process. It's through AB's guidance and insistence on perfection that her Impex records are true gems in our systems. I don't know, and this is the truth, I don't know of another label that spends the attention to detail in the production that Impex does. They are dead quiet, perfectly flat, wonderful recordings, and I treasure all of those in my system and collection. AB is largely responsible for that. Now I turn to AB to introduce our very, very special guest.
I have one. Thank you. Thank you all for coming, and nice to see some familiar faces. Thank you. First, again, my name is AB. I'm from Impex Records, and before we begin, I'd like to thank Nagra and Kerry, our hosts, for inviting us to be here today. And I am thrilled to be able to collaborate with High End Society to bring our very special guest, guitar legend Al Di Meola, here today. Al's career has spanned over 5 decades, releasing more than 20-something albums, collaborated dozens more, and his impressive accolades includes 2 platinum records, 1 Grammy, 4 gold records, an honorary degree from Berklee Music College, a Lifetime Achievement Award from BBC, and millions of records sold. I first came to appreciate Al when I heard the album Elegant Gypsy, and I appreciated his talent, but it wasn't until 1994 when I was attending a trade show that I heard Friday Night in San Francisco. I literally lost my mind. I stood there and I kept listening and listening. I said, can you play that again? Can you play that again? And it was because of my love for Friday Night in San Francisco that led me to collaborate with Sony Music to release Friday Night on both 33 and 45 on Impex Record. And the 45 did so well, it led to the opportunity and collaboration with Sony Music and my personal collaboration with Al to release Saturday Night in San Francisco, which is out right now on 33. As some of you may know or heard the story, the Saturday Night San Francisco came about because Al found the multi-track tapes in the basement of his New Jersey home. And these tapes are kind of like unseen dream of every audiophile label, having 6 unmixed 16-track masters. From there, I started a 2+ year journey with Al to release Saturday Night in San Francisco, and the album was out July 1st of 2022. Impex Record released the US version, and Ear Music released the European version. Both albums have the same edits, but they were different mixed, different mastering engineer, and different pressing plants. But before I introduce our brand ambassador and our special guest of honor, let's play Saturday Night in San Francisco. Track, side A, track 1 and 2. This one is on 33, pressed at RTI.
I was just old enough to drink.
Good evening, thank you for coming. This is a rare, rare privilege for all of us. Long-awaited pleasure. What these 3 great artists are going to do this evening is each one will play individually, then they'll play in teams, then there'll be an intermission, and the 3 of them will play together through the entire second half.
just a sample. If you want to hear the rest of the album, you have to go buy it. So it's with my great honor and pleasure to introduce Al Di Meola.
Thank you very much. Am I being heard? Good. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Nice to see you. Yeah, this was a pretty famous recording, the Friday Night record, which the way we had mixed it, we had I was on this side, Paco was on this side, I was center channel. So anyway, we had gone, we started a tour. I must have been 23. I don't know what I was, but I was pretty young. And I joined this trio. Then we had an impresario agent from London, Barry Marshall. You know, books from McCartney, John, but he stuck in the business with us. And he booked a 2-month tour starting in Scandinavia. He came down through Germany. We did a lot in Germany. We recorded all the shows. We did the rest of Europe, Belgium, France, Italy, Switzerland, Austria. And then we went over to the States and we finished a 2-month tour in San Francisco. And those were we listened to all the tapes, but we found that the last 2 shows were the most magnificent. And so we mixed that record the Friday night. And then, of course, we were left with all of these boxes of tapes. And since the mixing took place in White Plains, New York, they asked what we want to do with the tapes. And I said, well, I live across the river. You know, you can store them in my house. And that's when I got the idea in 2020, when we were pretty much idle at home, to listen to the tapes again and see if they're hopefully not damaged. And we did a baking process to preserve the sound, which we had it redone. We did it 2 times and had the tapes restored to full audio capacity. And then we took the alternate songs that were not released on Friday night. We made a whole record of Saturday night, which was a pretty nice discovery for a lot of the fans. A lot of them didn't know we did a Saturday night. In fact, John McLaughlin didn't know we played a Saturday night 40 years later. You know. So anyway, the whole experience of the years, 40 plus years of dealing with record companies, I've never had one so fruitful and fulfilling as the one I had with dealing with A.B. Vaughn. I mean, she was so meticulous and went out on a limb so many times that I was really captivated with the attention to detail. I've never seen in all my years of recording with Columbia, Sony, and all the other labels combined. And she really made this record happen. I mean, I did a lot of the editing.
You did
And I'll tell a story about the editing.
Sure.
Because I spent with my engineer a good, probably couple of months editing to fit the sides of the vinyl. It was very hard to do, to cut parts of solos out. You know, so I had to sit and make the determination for John. Paco's deceased, so I had to really think about keeping the best aspects of the record intact and dissecting what we could lose in order to meet the size of the vinyl. We spent all of our time editing. Since it was the second night, it was the same microphone, same ambient, same everything. We didn't pay a lot of attention to
That's okay.
we didn't pay a lot of attention to actually A being against Friday night, because it was the same theater. So when Bernie Goodman, the mastering god on the West Coast, he heard it, he goes, it sounds like a different record. So A.B. calls me and says, Al, are you sure it's the same place? I said, absolutely. All the boxes are labeled perfectly. She goes, well, you know, she brought up a point. I said, did your A.B. against the Friday? And I said, actually, no. We just spent all the time editing. So she had a point. So we went back and we remixed the whole thing. Because there are certain levels of ambient mics you have to match the same ambient quality of Friday Night. So we had to do a whole new remix. Before that, we did a rebaking at the Skywalker Studio in Northern California. Did a phenomenal job. Brought it up again another level. And a lot of people are saying that the Saturday night sounds better than the Friday night. Now, mind you, these records were sitting in my basement for 43 plus 44 years or whatever. And I had no idea what it was, if they were even going to be up to par. The boxes looked like they were shredded through a machine.
There was some water damage, mold, the tapes were old, so it required a lot of restoration. And we took it to the world famous Skywalker, which restores all the, the old movies and very difficult projects.
Yeah, Avi made it all happen. I was very impressed. Very impressed. Where were you in the 70s, by the way? We could have used you. So, yeah.
You made it happen.
You made it. Well, you made it happen. It started with me calling John and convincing him that we did 2 nights in San Francisco. You did? John, it was a long time ago, but COVID is upon us. We should maybe talk about this now before, And he was a little against it in a way. He almost didn't believe we had something. I said, well, I go, all right, send me something. So I sent him a track, and then I couldn't get him on the phone for a while. I said, oh boy, maybe he doesn't like it. So eventually got him. I kept on it. I really kind of resurrected a friendship. And he says, it sounds phenomenal. He said, keep it all. And then I sent him another 2 tracks. Phenomenal, keep it all. Don't edit anything out. I said, well, John, we gotta make vinyl. Work. You're gonna have 45 minutes on one side of a vinyl, So that was the thing. Well, it's up to me. I keep it all. I said, well, okay, we have to deal with reality and the fact that it was COVID and there were no flights coming in from Europe. It looks like I had the balls in my court. You gotta trust me. And he had a hard time with that. However, in the end, he congratulated Avi. He even congratulated me, which was very hard to believe I would get a congratulations from John on anything, but it was a nice thing. And I said, well, your wife writes a very nice email. So that's it.
We made a documentary. It's on Elusive Disc YouTube channel. It's Elusive Disc, DISC. And it's like a 30-minute of the making of Saturday Night, and we kind of filmed our entire process, talk about editing. It was like probably 80 hours of film edit down to 30 minutes, so that was not easy. But it tells us, what we did, the engineers we worked with, the manufacturing, how we developed the jacket, because the jacket's made with metallic ink and 2-color metallic ink. And this type of metallic ink is difficult because you have to lay the silver down and let it dry for 48 hours before running the second coat. So that took up a lot of press time. And we did it during COVID, so it was a very, nothing was normal. Nothing worked normal during COVID.
You have a Friday night version?
Yes. So before we talk about a little bit about Al's body of work and what he's doing now and projects he's currently working on, we're going to play Friday Night in San Francisco on 45 by Impex Record, and it was this album and this project that led me to working with Al and to really expand my catalog, which I'm looking to do more stuff with you. When I first heard this, I literally lost my mind. It is absolutely phenomenal. It's sexy. It's I'm still in love with it. I can hear it over and over. And I actually, when I don't play it on my record, I have it streaming in the background when I'm cooking, a little wine. It's phenomenal.
Not when you're driving, though.
I do a podcast when I drive. Anyway, so I have to say that was a very quiet LP, so I'm very happy. Dead silent. So that was the 45 version. Al, can we have you come back up and would you like to share it with the audience, outside of Friday and Saturday, what are you working on right now? What are you doing transferring, because you're doing a lot of composition.
Yes. In 2020, when COVID hit, I was kind of glued to the television, watching the news, and it wasn't anything that was really pleasant. So a way to combat that was to just submerge myself down in the studio and just start writing. Because whenever I either wrote music or read music, it completely took my mind off of anything surrounding that was going on. So the writing came fairly easy. It was pouring out, so I just wrote. I kept writing. And it turned into almost a 2.5-year project where I wrote so much, probably have about 16 new pieces of music that will stretch out over two albums. So it'll be a double album. And I called Your Music up and I told them about it. And I was expecting them to say, you can't do a duet, double. And they were really happy instead that it happened. So, this record will, it started out as a solo guitar record, solo acoustic, real purist kind of record. And it just got carried away as time went on. So half of it will remain solo, the other half will have a more full production, including percussion and bass and electric guitar on top of acoustic guitar and some keyboard stuff. So I'm doing mostly everything. Bring my musicians from Europe to the States at the time. And then at the end of June, I go to Milan to record some symphonic parts that will go on top of some of the tracks that I have already. And then July will be a mixing period. It probably won't come out till the first quarter of next year. But
Production is coming back to somewhat normal, so it won't be so long like Saturday night when it took us 2 years.
no.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this, I want all of what was created in that 2.5-year period, right, to come out. I don't want to release like another record years from now of that period. That's the mood I was in then, And it saved my life, pretty much.
Save your sanity.
Well, the sanity, yeah, because we didn't know what was going to happen to humanity at that time,
Yes.
So, luckily we came out of it, but it was rough.
Came
And
out on
in
top.
some ways it was great because I think I got to another plateau as a composer. But most of what you heard back here was improvisation, and that was solely due to the fact that we didn't have cell phones and we didn't have computers. So we had those extra 5, 6, 7 hours a day to practice our asses off in our hotel rooms, knowing that night we'd be competing against one another, and healthy competition. And the audience got the benefit of that, And then the record came out and it surprised Columbia Records, which became Sony. They were kind of shocked at how well that was received throughout the world.
You mentioned during our interview that you guys were been touring for the 2 months.
2 months.
So Friday, Saturday was like the end of your tour. So
Yeah,
you guys
the technical chops were so right on, and our, the musical dialogue was really, really at the top.
you guys were speaking to each other.
Yeah. The interplay is really what made it very happening. That last piece, by the way, was just me and Paco. So there's 3 duets and there's a couple of trio pieces on the first record. But on the new record, Saturday Night, there's 4, I think,
So there's
4 or 5 trio pieces,
Yes.
no duets, and then you have 3 solo pieces.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so it's quite different. They were all different than Friday. Yeah,
Different performances. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So we want to reach out to the audience. Does anybody have questions they like to ask Al?
Yes.
What's
Anything
your
you wanna
favorite
know?
guitar? What's your favorite guitar?
The favorite guitar now, on a lot of the records I've made in the last 15, 20 years have been with a nylon guitar made in Madrid called a Conde Hermanos. And they have a signature model that I have a special pickup on it and everything. Yeah. That guitar I'm playing from that speaker. In fact, Paco was playing a Conde Hermanos back in 1980, and I was playing an Ovation. An Ovation was a steel string guitar that myself and Glenn Campbell made popular. And it was made by an aerospace company. So this guy that owned the aerospace company loved guitar. So he was the maker of helicopters for Vietnam. So he had left over all of this helicopter shell, which is called Lyricord. So he managed to use the back of the guitar, which was round, like a helicopter, right? And that's inhibited the amount of feedback, so you can actually turn this acoustic guitar up if you're playing with a band. It also had a plug-in. So it was somewhat between electric and acoustic in a way. More acoustic, but it was a unique sound. Yeah. Anybody else?
Anybody?
Feel free.
Before we leave, I would like to. Sorry?
Who's your favorite bass player?
Bass player? Oh, Jesus Christ. Are they still around? Well, you know, I played with Stanley Clarke, right? And he really revolutionized the bass. You know, so when that band returned to Forever, when I was 19, I got the gig with my favorite group. Chick was my favorite keyboard player and also composer. So from the get-go, I was playing in a heavily composed kind of music. They were already legends in my book, and so Chick found he had heard a tape of me playing on New Year's Eve in New Jersey with the Barry Miles Quartet. So it was given to him by who I considered to be at the time like my big brother. He's actually my sister's friend, and he was right out of Woodstock, always high, you know. Nicest guy in the world, but like a real Woodstock hippie kind of guy. He just happened to like my music. So he took this tape that he made because he was an amateur recording engineer. And I had mentioned to him Return to Forever is my favorite band, but I didn't say to him, hey, can you go to Chick with that tape? He just did it. He found Chick in New York City and the management, and he bugged them to death until they listened to it. And when they heard it, they said, this is the guy. So Chick calls me up while I was at Berklee School of Music, and he goes, is this Al? And I go, yes. He goes, is this Chick Corea? I said, yeah. Come on, who's this? He said, no, this is Chick. I heard a tape of you playing with the Barry Miles Quartet. We love it. I said, what tape was that? He goes, from New Year's Eve. I said, oh, Jesus Christ. This is the night that my friend Mike, who's Mr. Druggy, put a little bit of acid. So I was, first time I ever did acid, and I was on an acid trip, and I never played better since that night. And so Chick thought he hired some other guy. So anyway, he says, look, we want you to come to New York and join the band. Not even try out. So I go down to New York. Actually, I went home first to my parents. My mother said, what are you doing home from school? I said, I'm playing Carnegie Hall on Tuesday night. And my father's at the table. He goes, get the hell out of here. You're not playing Carnegie. I said, Dad, I'm playing Carnegie Hall with Chick Corea. He goes, who's Chuck Corea? Chick Corea. Return to Forever is my favorite group. And I'm playing Carnegie Hall as my first show at 19 years old, which I was nervous beyond belief. So I did my 2 or 3 days rehearsal in the city. Luckily, I could read music fairly well, enough to get the gig. They sent the limo to the house, to my parents' house. They picked me up. My parents sat looking at me like this. I was facing forward. The car was going this way. My father was looking at me going, I can't believe it. He goes, you know, but I always told you how you get to Carnegie Hall. I always told you. It's practice, practice, practice. And I'm thinking in my head, it's acid, acid, acid.
That was my beginning.
Could I just, on behalf of our collective community of audiophiles and music lovers, thank you for the musical gifts that you've given us.
Appreciate it.
It's amazing to be able to, aside from the couple of thousand people who heard these concerts live, to be able to get the goosebumps hearing them today.
Thank you very
Wonderful,
much.
and AB
Thank
for
you.
the amazing productions of
Thank you.
Impex Records. Thank you both so much.
Yes,
you.
yes, yes. Thank you very much.